Well, good evening, and thanks so much for tuning in. And welcome to our second ever Mag from Home show. This is our substitute since we can't be in the studio right now due to COVID-19. This is the next best way to get garden information to you. So, welcome. I'm your host, Tanisha Spain, hosting from my house again. And of course, we've got some panelists here, just like when we're in the studio, to help answer your questions, to get you some of that expert advice. Last week we had Jen. This week we've got two of our panelists on the show that you'll recognize. So please welcome Kelly and Doug. Kelly, we'll start with you ladies first. Please introduce yourself and tell everyone what your specialty is.
My name is Kelly Alsop, and I am a educator based out of Bloomington for University of Illinois Extension. And my specialty is greenhouse management and integrated pest management. I know that's a lot, but I'm good with houseplants. I love insects. So any question like that is perfect for me.
All right, wonderful. And Doug, tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Doug Williams. My background is horticulture and landscape architecture. I am going to be helping out you today with information about your woody plant material, your landscape plants, design, and what have you.
Now you teach at UIC, right? Are you in Chicago?
Actually, I do a number of things.
Oh, okay.
I've taught at several universities, Art Institute, University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, but I also work as an AmeriCorps Vista with the project exploration where we do STEM education for under-resourced communities in Chicago.
Okay. I was going to say we don't get to have you on the show that often. So this is kind of nice because now we can bug you all the time when we do our virtual shows. So, okay, let's jump right in. So, just like in the studio, we've got some show and tells. So, any volunteers to go first? What you would like to show? Not everybody at once.
I can go first.
Okay. What do you got, Kelly?
So my show and tell is related to a question that was sent in by a viewer. Her name is Lynn Hedden, and she asked, what is the best houseplant for the office? And so offices really don't have lots of light. We know not everybody has that wonderful south-facing window in an office. So I actually did a little bit of office scaping for my own office in the extension office, where I placed several of these ZZ plants. Yes, it's ZZ plant. And they are just rock stars because they don't require a lot of light. They can take a little abuse as far as underwatering and a little bit of overwatering. However, too much water they don't like. And I hardly ever have to fertilize them. I hardly ever have to worry about the lights. Even the office mate with the brownest thumb, the green thumb, not a green thumb, can really do a good job growing the ZZ plants.
I've seen a lot of snake plants in offices too. Do they do well with low light?
Absolutely, they do wonderful. And that's one of the things about ZZ plants and snake plants that I like. Is they don't really show a lot of plant damage. So you don't have lots of dead leaves to prune out all the time.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Doug, did you have a show and tell item as well?
Yeah, we're going to talk about landscape edging.
Okay.
Something that everyone is probably going to be getting ready to do in their landscape, maybe reestablishing their edging. But there's something I really want to point out based on edging. So there are different types. That's what this first image shows. We're going to move to the next one.
Maybe. There we go.
That's
pretty.
Well, one thing, you can kind of flip through a few of these and I'll let you know when to stop. What's happening here is that they're vertical. And so what that requires is actually an edger for you to come in later on and do some additional work. And that may be time better saved. So we can hold here. And if you look at this, this is a plastic edging here and it's got the spikes. However, being in this region of geography, you have freezing and thawing. And so the earth will push these elements out after about a year or definitely or so. And so you have to re-establish it. You can do your own railroad types of ties or things that will go down at least 2 feet. But this one I'm sure is probably only a few inches. So it's not going to be effective for the long term. If you go to the next image, well, this is almost a Bob Skirvin image. You know, I'm sure somebody
I really like that.
made the reuse of some materials. So if you got some old dishes you want to use, I'm not sure if your
Oh.
neighbors will appreciate it, but if it's your backyard, hey.
I like that.
This,
Yeah.
but this
Oh, go
also,
ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, this also requires more work too, because you have to come back with an edger. We'll advance to the next image. And so this is probably the more popular. Looks like radishes still edging, but that comes with its own stakes, but those stakes usually don't go down far enough for this climate. So you still have to almost fashion your own. So that's still more work. Go to the next image. Now this is where we're starting to get into what we need to do is have edging that's flat enough where your lawnmower, whatever you're cutting with, if it's push, gas, solar panel, whatever, you can get the job done with one fell swoop. But there's also a vertical element here that some people like to have. So if you go to the next image, because if you don't do this, you'll have to go out and get an edger. Now, obviously this is turf or lawn or grass adjacent to a sidewalk. The next image. And so the spade edge is the start of any great edging, is to really just dig in and have that gap space there. And that'll create enough of an edge. You see it here. And if you so choose to, the next image will show where you actually can put in stonework that's flat and flush with the level of the turf. And that's important because your lawnmower can go right over it and you're done. You can go and have a barbecue. You can go and
It doesn't require extra tools, right?
right. Now, sometimes people like to have it really, you know, like a
Yes.
nice haircut. I mean, it's just, and if you're into that, go for it. But this is a way to save it. In fact, this spring I'll be reestablishing my mom's edging around the house here in Chicago, so that when I come to mow it, I won't have to go and get an edger and do all this extra work.
Yeah, make it easy on yourself, right?
Right. Yeah. So place it below the ground or at level with the surface.
For lower maintenance.
Yeah, and let your plants show off. You don't, well, edging is nice too, but you know, let the plants really be the expression. So here's one with brick, and there are other images too. So long as
So let me
it's,
ask you this. Is this something that people can do as the home gardener, or do you recommend folks hiring a professional?
well, if you can do it yourself, but if you have an extensive landscape, or if you have certain things like bluestone or something you want to really make a certain type of signature that kind of matches with what you have for the overall landscape you have at home, then you might want to employ a professional landscape designer, landscape architect. But for some smaller spaces and some very practical things, maybe, you know, try it yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So next, we've got some Facebook questions that have rolled in. So we'll start from the top. Linda Lee writes, what suggestions do you have for garden clubs holding plant sales? So, you know, obviously a lot of folks are doing curbside pickup. Some have just been flat out canceled. I can tell you over in our neck of the woods, they are doing curbside. You can order online and pick up. They're doing it maybe 1 or 2 days a week. But what's going on where you guys live? Are nurseries open? How are people getting their plants?
Well, the nurseries in Bloomington are, you know, curbside pickup. A few of them have online ordering. There are a few just cells around that have like totally changed everything that they're doing. I mean, clearly you can't go in and peruse and shop around for plants, and you want to keep that social distancing. But a lot of, for instance, like the Wild Ones has a sale here in Bloomington, and they're going to let people order online and pick up.
Doug, anything there?
Well, I haven't started looking yet. We just had snow the other day, so
True.
So we did too. We had
we're
snow
getting ready.
too. We're gonna have snow tonight.
We're getting ready to have some more snow too. So
Yes.
But you know what? It is April 16th.
I know.
It's time.
Well, yeah, but our even our frost-free date usually they say it's Mother's Day, but it still can snow.
I know.
So it's hit or miss. I think if you're
Mhm.
going to do a garden club sale, then you want to have the social distancing that you're going to practice, the face mask,
Mhm.
hand sanitizer, things like that. And if people can, as Kelly mentioned, that people are ordering in advance, emailing whatever you're interested in, so that people can have it pretty much prepared for you to not spend much time
Yeah.
being too close to others and potentially spreading the COVID-19.
Grab and go, Linda Lee. That would be our advice to you. This next one, I'm going to actually read in conjunction with a question that we have because it works out. So, Doug, the email question is, this lady has bunny damage. She says the first picture is a Sargent crabapple, second is an American redbud, and there is bunny damage. And then Peggy Sue writes in on Facebook just a little bit ago, rabbits and deer are killing my gardens. Can you please give us ideas? So two people dealing with the same thing. What advice do you have?
Wow. There are a couple of things we've mentioned in the past, and I had to get more information about it. I have never used it, but I've heard, I think it was coyote urine to help, at least for the deer, to kind of
Mm-hmm.
mark the territory.
Mm-hmm.
What I've used in my landscape, because I don't have any deer, but I do have rabbits, and they are all over the place. And so I have a fencing, rabbit fencing. I placed it at least a foot to a foot and a half down into the soil profile. And then what's above ground is at least a foot high. And that prevents, for the most part, rabbits entering my backyard. And that could work the same way around any type of tree or smaller vegetated area.
Okay.
There are other methods too, but those are the ones that I know are truly going to work. Now,
Tried and true. Okay.
if you put it in front of a planting bed and you got this big fence, it may not be as attractive because you're looking at a fence with
Yeah.
plants behind it. So, but for
Okay.
trees, fruit trees, the periphery of your backyard landscape, it would work that way. So.
All right, Kelly. The next question is for you from Christy Wells. She says, usually I get nursery plants for my container veggie garden, but this year I've started more things from seed indoors at home, which I have a feeling a lot of people are doing. What is the best way to harden them off to get them ready to go outside?
Actually, you and Jennifer touched on this in the last episode. I am in the middle of making an infographic on this, but
well, just give them enough, and then they can
yeah,
go find
but
you.
You want
and get the
to
rest.
transition. You don't want to, have them in this, inside environment and then be like, here you go, make it or die. But you're gonna do. You're gonna take them outside every day, maybe 3 or 4 days. You're gonna keep them in a shady location, and then maybe and then bring them in every night, and then for the next 3 or 4 days you're going to put them in a little bit more sun. And if you miss a day, it's fine. If you just don't want them to go into shock and without slowly transitioning them out there. So spend a couple of weeks of transitioning them outside.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's go to some other questions that we've got, email questions. Also, for everyone watching, please send us a question while we've got these guys on the line. You've got pest management, you've got turf, you've got the best of both worlds on the phone here. So call in with your questions. Okay, Kelly, we talked about the nurseries. We talked about what plants to buy. How about, okay, the jade plant question. We'll do
Jade
that one.
plant.
Yes.
Yeah, you had a viewer, Katie from Chicago, wants to know about her jade plant, and she actually did send a few pictures. So I just wanted to give you a couple of tips. Jade plants, even though they're succulents, they're not as drought tolerant as other succulents are. So sometimes they need to, not stay dry for as long as you allow your succulents to stay dry. Another thing, the other secret to jade plant is they like to be root bound. And I've seen, really, really old jade plants that in these really small pots. But since your plant is actually looks a little young, it if it hasn't been potted up in maybe 4 years, you could probably bump it up. Keep that pot, shallow and but wide, and like this. Let's say this is a 6-inch pot. I wouldn't go up to more than an 8-inch pot. It actually looks pretty good to me. And then after you pot it up to that larger, more shallow pot, you're not going to water it in for a week because you're allowing those roots to kind of mine the soil a little bit. They're not going to mine the soil a ton in a week, but you wait a week before you water them.
Mm-hmm.
It looks pretty good to me. If you've potted it up in the last couple of years, I just let it go for another 2 years.
Mm-hmm. It looks healthy.
It looks great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anything else either of you guys want to add, or any topics that are just burning on your heart right now before we go on? We don't have any other questions. I have a couple things I was going to throw out, but any advice that you want to throw out there to people? Doug, we'll start with you. Is there anything that's appropriate for this time of year? We talked about getting our tools cleaned off. What can we be doing out in the yard? I know it's too early for a lot of things to go out, but what can we do?
Well, I just started, the grass did start to grow recently, so I went ahead and took a swing at that. I gathered a lot of the branches that have been falling from the winter winds or the winds of March into April. So have heavy rains and snow, so it's quite a bit of a branch and leaf litter. Making sure you clean out gutters, things like that, so that you have infiltration. I've kind of tilled a little bit of my compost pile because it's not frozen now. You can get I've got some hanging or just pots that I usually start seeds out in. And so I've started to kind of integrate some soil into those and get them ready. And in fact, what I do is I place those, once I put the seeds in them, I take a spoon and I label them with a little bit of tape, and I write on them with a pencil so that it doesn't wash away. So I know what I've actually planted. All seedlings look alike, right? I remember one year I was like, which ones are the okra? Which ones are the...
I did that this year. I mixed up the broccoli and cauliflower plants. I'm still not quite sure which are which, but we'll find out.
Yeah, because I had the okra, and I think it was like a vine plant like zucchini or something. I'm like, oh, this is not going to work because one is upright, another one is a twining long vine. I had to quickly figure it out. So make sure you label them properly, get them ready so that when you do plant those seeds, and I would like to start them indoors like we talked about earlier, but I often start them outdoors because bringing things sometimes in and out, you bring insects and other critters in. And so I start them outside, and I actually place them underneath this sort of table that we have so it doesn't get direct light, because it will, that'll be a harsh condition for small seedlings, because you can be away for a few hours, and if they're dried out or stressed, you've already lost it. You got to start all over again. That's another week or two lost from what will be a fruit production, and you want that to start. Hopefully you'll have them ready by the 4th of July, barbecue, but you just do your best.
Okay. All right. We have a question from Jean Kelly. Question is, as far as 3 inches of snow coming tonight, so back on the topic of expecting snow, do we need to cover up certain plants? My broccoli and cauliflower is outside right now. So, the early stuff, pansies, whatever, should folks go out and cover those, or what are your thoughts?
A lot of those things are pretty frost tolerant. All those cool season vegetables that we're growing now, the broccoli, the lettuce, the kale, the kohlrabi, it can take some pretty cool temperatures and even probably a light snow. I doubt we're gonna have a hard freeze or anything. So The only thing you would worry about is if you've already planted some warm season stuff, which I'm sure all of our viewers haven't done that.
No, we know better.
But
Okay.
even if you got a little, even if you got a little damage on some of your plants, it'd probably grow right out of it. Some of the perennials or shrubs. I did walk around the neighborhood today and saw that all the magnolia blooms were nipped by the cold, and that was kind of sad because last year we didn't get to see much of the magnolia blooms either. So
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Another question. Teresa Bernard says, please tell me how to kill mulberry trees. My neighbor has one big old mulberry and I have 50 or so little ones. I've tried pulling them, digging them, spray. Nothing works. Help with about 4 exclamation points. So she wants to get rid of mulberries.
Eat them. No, I'm just kidding.
they are delicious, but I hate them too.
They're a mess, and
they
flies
are.
and, you know.
I think the key to managing some of these invasive woody species, which I probably shouldn't answer this question, it should probably be Doug, but he'll probably agree with me though, is when you cut them, you have to spray them immediately, like almost within minutes. Otherwise you have to recut them. So I just keep cutting mine out because I don't want to spray chemicals. But if you really have a problem with them, I do think mulberry is one of the ones that you probably might have to spray a chemical after you cut it. Doug?
Take it away. Bring us home.
Kelly, you said it very well. I think that's true. Those who want to use integrated pest management, this being a weed. But another thing too, you mentioned your neighbor. And if you have a large mulberry tree next door that's sending the seeds over, the birds are bringing them over, the wind is bringing them over, then you're going to be in a very constant and steady fight. So I think hopefully in convincing your neighbor to kind of say, hey, there's some other options, there's some other trees we should plant in these spaces that will provide shade and less maintenance. Usually that's a big sale. Now, if they're into canning and making jellies and jams, then maybe you should go into business.
That'd be more of a hard sell, right? If they love those trees.
Right,
Okay.
right. Yeah, but mulberries, they make a mess of even sidewalks.
Mm-hmm.
But the berries are good, but it's so prolific. You have to, it's just a lot of work. So
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest cutting them, as Kelly said, and painting that stump with the herbicide. I guess there are a couple of them out there. You can ask your local nursery and a home and garden center, a couple of different options, and read the labels and try to stick to what they recommend on them as well.
Okay. All right.
I just wrote an article about mulberries last fall, I think, and I called it a tree behaving badly, a very bad tree. I have one in my neighbor's yard too. So, and then of course, since there's one tree, there's like
Mm-hmm.
sprouts back there in the neighbor's yard too. And then so they're all over my yard.
Yes, we have one too, and I'm sure I don't usually go over there because it's such a mess, but I'm sure there are a ton of little trees somewhere around it. Okay, Marcia Taft Harbor writes in, is it okay to plant zinnia seeds now?
Inside.
Okay. Yeah.
Zinnias will not do good in less than 55 degrees consistently. So it's definitely not consistently over 55 degrees right now. So anything that doesn't tolerate, frost or cold would not last out now. And then, you might have some issues with germination too. So I would start them inside.
Okay. All right.
And have them ready to plant in early to mid-May.
Mm-hmm.
We're south than you are, Doug, so we get to plant a little bit earlier.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Okay, so is there anything else? Let me check Facebook one more time to make sure we don't have any questions out there that we didn't get to, because I want to make sure everybody gets their chance. I wanted to ask a question for my own yard. Is this a good time of year to start moving around some perennials that need split? You know, we talked about ornamental grasses last week. I asked if it was appropriate to start splitting those now. So what about some of our other things, you know, hostas and other perennials that are starting to come up? Is it too soon to split, or do you think it's a good time?
I think hostas are pretty tough. It's still a little soon. We've got, well, it's a little warmer, you know, further south you go. But we still aren't in that free zone just yet. I'd wait a little while longer. I almost don't think this is spring until we have at least 40-degree temperatures at night consistently. Because you're still in that, things can actually freeze. I mean, we may have one day, but if you have, you know, 5 or 7 days in a row of 38 with wind chill of something it's freezing. So you're gonna lose it.
Okay. We have another.
Like kids.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. What were you saying?
Gardeners are like kids in the summer. You remember when you were a kid in the summer and the first warm day you were begging your parents.
Oh yeah.
Right? Well, gardeners, they get 1 or 2 good, warm, sunny days, and they're like, I'm planting my whole garden. And
everything.
Like, let's wait just a little. I know we want to garden, but we still have to deal with the Illinois weather.
It's true. And we did get those really, really nice days last week, a couple in a row. And it was just like, oh, it's summer now. Let's do it.
I know. And all the bulbs were blooming and the dahlias and the trees. And it was like, I'm walking every day.
Yes.
You know, and today I'm like,
back down to 40 degrees.
Yes.
So it's really good to, you know, we have weather people who look at the weather in a wonderful way, and they almost can give us a 10-day outlook. Now, they aren't perfect because they don't make the weather. They just help to predict it. And looking at that helps give you some idea of, if you don't see 3 nights of or more of 40 in a row and not a big dip into 28 degrees, then you might be able to start doing something, but it's not
quite time yet. Okay, we have another Facebook. Oh, sorry, Kelly. You have something else?
And the 55-degree weather also counts for houseplants. You're not going to take any of your houseplants outside until it's consistently above 55 degrees.
Got it. Okay. Let's see. Daniel G. Taylor writes in, longtime fan, first time question. I'm getting into veggies now. What should I be focusing on to get high yield but low maintenance? Story of my life, right?
Oh, I have opinions.
Okay, let's hear them.
Come on.
Well, it's cool weather season, so you guys could be planting radishes right now, the seeds of radishes, and get tons of radishes in a short period of time. The harvest is like 4 to 6 weeks. You can have radishes on your salad. I'm loving kohlrabi. I think kohlrabi is so much easier to grow than broccoli and cauliflower. And so I dig it. It was kind of cool. I've even eaten the leaves and ate the stem raw. I think kale and Swiss chard is a huge bang for your buck. Squash, I mean, people who grow squash have zucchini coming out their ears.
Yes.
And my favorite plant, vegetable to grow in a pot is eggplant. It's this little plant and it doesn't really put on a ton of foliage and doesn't grow a lot, but you have these humongous fruits and you continuously harvest those fruit. This seems like such, you know, I love eggplant. And then, you know, I can't go without my basil. I eat basil.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, herb gardening. That's another really good topic that we should talk about on another show. We've already been on for 30 minutes, but that's a nice small starter project, you know, herb garden. And that's one of the things I did when I was first learning how to grow things, was start small with an herb garden. And I think there was a lady on Facebook that made a comment about needing a book, Gardening for Dummies, because she's just not good at it. And every time somebody says it, I'm like, but you are. You just don't know it yet. You have to keep trying. Some of my friends kill plants. And I'm just like, that's okay, go buy another one. We can do this. We're gonna get you over the hill.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we have we're gonna have a lot of new gardeners
Yes.
in their backyard now. Herbs would be an excellent way to start. Start easy. I mean, they're easy from seed, easy to take care of.
Mhm.
You don't have to put too much into them as long as you don't have waterlogged soil. I think you're fine.
Yep. Yeah. Doug, did you have something to add there?
Yeah, I was going to say two of my favorites, which you can make a salad from, which I did last year and the previous year too, where I had some heirloom tomatoes. I had different kind, but I like to have, instead of having lettuce, which kind of wilts and goes sour sooner, cucumbers. And those bad boys, once they take off, you almost have to take the vines
Oh,
5
yeah.
times because there's probably one you're leaving on there, and it's going to be as big as a baseball bat if you don't get it.
Uh-huh. And you're just offering to all your friends.
Well, now you can share it with your neighbors.
There you go. There you go. Let's see. Tiffany writes in, is it smart to fertilize spring bulbs in early spring and again in fall, especially for non-Darwin tulips? So she's asking, can she fertilize now and then again in the fall?
I have an opinion on this too, always. I actually did some research on fertilizing bulbs. And what I found out was that we believe that we have to, when we plant a bulb, we believe we have to add phosphorus in the form of bone meal. And what is actually happening is when you add phosphorus to that planting hole to increase those roots, you're actually killing off or preventing beneficial organisms, mycorrhizae in the soil from attaching to those roots. I know it's a fungal, mycorrhizae is a fungus that grows in the soil that attaches to roots that actually is a symbiotic relationship. So if you put the bone meal in, you're actually preventing this relationship from happening. So in other words, the mycorrhizae is more efficient in taking up phosphorus than any amount of phosphorus you could add to the soil.
Interesting.
So when you're thinking about fertilizing your bulbs in the spring, which sometimes, we add a little bit of nitrogen, I wouldn't add the phosphorus. I would only you think about those 3 numbers like 12, 12, 12. So that first number is nitrogen, the second number is phosphorus, and the last number is potassium. I would think about only adding nitrogen.
Okay.
But we'll let the doctor.
Good doctor, what do you say?
Yeah.
That sounds like a wrap. Sounds great.
Okay. Well, guys,
I have to get his approval.
I know you always got to get hold on. We have to take this question.
Okay.
John Bodensteiner, a friend of the show, which I think he's going to be on soon. He says, if you want herb starts, come see me. He has everything. That man's got everything. And he actually lives right down the street from me. So I might be heading down to John's house to get some herb starts. Okay, guys, it's been 30 minutes. This is the second time we've done this and it goes so fast. And the questions came in. I'm really happy about that. So thanks to everyone who sent in a question and everyone who's watching out there. We're making do. We're still doing our garden thing, just a little bit differently. So thanks for hanging in there with us. Doug and Kelly, thank you so much for your time. Are there any side projects or anything that you would like to shamelessly plug for yourselves before we log off?
Well, I am participating in the I Pollinate program this year. It's through the University of Illinois. It's connecting scientists to gardeners throughout the entire state. They have you plant some plants and make observations on pollinators. So that is what I'm hopefully going to do in the near future. As soon as I get my plants ordered and my curbside pickup, is I'm going to plant my I Pollinate garden. And then throughout the growing season, I'm going to record the pollinator visitations and send it back to the U of I.
That'll be cool. Well, you'll have to keep us posted on the show as well, because that's a big buzzword, and it should be. So everybody's paying attention now.
It's a fun project because, you actually go out there and really investigate your plants, which
Mhm.
people don't do all the time.
Cool. All right, Doug, you got anything going on?
Well, in a similar line with the pollinators project that Kelly's working on, we have something in the Austin neighborhood of Chicago with Project Exploration. We have our West Side STEM Education Lab, and we have some gardens out there where some of our youth are going to be taking on that challenge. So I encourage people to check out Project Exploration online and learn a little bit more. We'd like to have you come out and volunteer and become a participant here in the city. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, guys, until next time, thank you so much for everything. Appreciate it. Thanks to you again for watching, and hopefully you'll see us again next Thursday, same time, same place. Good night.